So you're interested in learning everything there is to know about filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona. Well, thankfully, you've actually come to the right place, so let's get right into it. Welcome to the Ascend Finance YouTube channel, where we help folks understand the cost and qualification for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona. We actually built a free Chapter 7 calculator below where you can estimate the cost, qualification, pros and cons of filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona. Whether you live in a small town or a bigger city, the Chapter 7 calculator gives you specific results based on your personal information and zip code. Today, I'm actually going to go through a few things. First, including the cost to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. After that, I'm going to start diving into how to qualify for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona. Later on, you'll hear me chat through kind of how assets all work in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona. And then finally, I'll wrap it up with, should you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona? Now, remember though, this is really just for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice. As I'm sure you're trying to research this as much as you possibly can right now, I'm gonna make this short and sweet by getting right into the first thing. So how much does it cost to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona? When it comes to filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy, there are several factors an attorney may consider in estimating a total all-in estimate to file. To clarify though, here's what an attorney actually may look at when they're trying to determine how much they may charge someone. So first, they may look at the complexity of the case. Second, the urgency for that person to file. Third, the years of experience for that attorney. Fourth, the actual cash flow of the client. So sometimes attorneys may be a little bit more flexible if they don't have as much money, pay or the income's lower. And then 5, location. So I kind of want to further go into each one real quick so we can kind of explain them. So first, complexity of the case, right? So this generally is going to refer to whether or not you have any assets you protected when you file. So if the client ends up having assets, it may take the attorney longer to kind of get the petition ready. So for urgency to file, whether you may have to file bankruptcy within a few days or months, an attorney may charge more or less depending on how much time they have to get it ready. And then attorney's years of experience, right? So this is going to be a little bit more straightforward. So if an attorney's been filing bankruptcies for more than 10 years versus someone that just started a year ago, they may actually be able to charge a bit more, but it really depends. And then fourth, the cash flow of the individual filing. So sometimes they may charge a smaller fee as a courtesy. Still, the average fee is usually charged regardless of the client's cash flow. Now, finally, the location. So this is actually more relative state versus state, as actually some states may have an average Chapter 7 fee of, let's say, $2,000 versus another state with an average of $1,200. Okay, so before I move on to the next part about kind of qualifying for Chapter 7, if you actually want to have an estimate for the total all-in cost, you can take our free Chapter 7 calculator below. You don't even have to add an email address to see the results. The idea is it gives you the cost, pros and cons, and whether you actually may qualify for a Chapter 7. Keep in mind, if you don't want to add any contact info, you can just select none of the above at the end, and you don't even have to add an email address. All right, so now let's dive in how to actually qualify for a Chapter 7. So there's going to be 3 main factors to understand when determining your ability to file Chapter 7. Income, expenses, assets. So those are going to be the 3 things I want you to remember when trying to understand qualification. So each state is going to have most likely an income limit set for your household size. So what that's going to be considered is the means test income limit. I'll actually put the income limit for this state on the screen, but keep in mind that the means test updates every so often. So that being said, taking our free calculator that's actually in the description can be helpful, as it's actually going to be most up to date with the means test data for estimating your qualification for Chapter 7. Alrighty, so now let's talk about expenses, as the means test has a couple of parts. The first part of the means test is mainly considering your gross income versus the income limit for the household size. Now, the second part generally considers your disposable income. Sometimes individuals may fail the first part of the means test by making too much money, but sometimes pass the second part because the court finds they may not actually have enough disposable income. And so when that's the case, you may find that you can qualify for a 7 even though you make more than the income limit. Now, finally, let's talk about how assets are actually really important to the Chapter 7 decision-making process. So although having assets may not impact your qualification, it may actually impact your decision to file. Almost every state has its own exemptions that filers can use. So they may want to utilize that to protect their assets from being liquidated. Now, the main assets I'd say that individuals are mainly concerned about are their home or their cars. So let me kind of explain how that looks like it. Now, before I dive deeper into that and how they're all treated, I just wanted to say, like, if the video has ended up being helpful, or if you think it could be, a game changer for someone you know, let's light up that like button below. It seems that YouTube tends to rank videos with more likes, and we like to think that our video can help those dealing with this kind of stressful topic. So let's make it go viral and create a positive impact. Now that we've covered kind of how assets may impact a Chapter 7 from more of a higher level, let's dive into it more and kind of explain how that all works. So there are what I'll call the 2 E's that can actually help you estimate the risk of you losing your asset when filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona. Those 2 E's are equity and exemptions. So remember those when we're kind of thinking through things of like, are my assets protected? Well, how much equity do I have and what's the exemption? So one of the most common assets individuals are concerned about losing is their home. So I'm going to use that in this example. I believe at the time of this video, the estimated homestead exemptions are around $150,000 for single individuals who are under the age of 65. So I'll even add a link in the description that'll have an article talking about more information on that and, more details and up-to-date details for the homestead exemption in Arizona. But let's use $150,000 for this example. So let's say you have less equity than the estimated homestead of $150K. Well, then it actually may be protected if you file Chapter 7. On the other hand, if you, let's say, have $80,000 more than the homestead, so you have $230,000 in homestead equity, well, then it actually may be at risk of being sold during the process. So what do you do if you have more equity than the state exemption, but you don't want to lose your home? Well, it may make sense to look at alternative options. We've made a bunch of videos kind of covering alternative to bankruptcy, but if you don't have a ton of time to watch those, you can actually just take our general debt options calculator that's linked in the description below. It'll break down the cost, duration, pros and cons of alternatives to bankruptcy. All right, finally, should you file Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Arizona? Basically, short answer is everyone's situation is unique and it's up to you. But long answer is if you're finding that you're either kind of at a spot where you're like, I have too much equity in one of my assets and I don't want to lose it, or B, let's say you don't even know if Chapter 7 is right for you, what I'd say is you can take our Chapter 7 calculator below. It'll help you estimate qualification and cost for bankruptcy in Arizona. That said, I get it if you don't have a ton of time and you don't really have the time to fill out a calculator, nor you may want to. You can actually just call us at 833-272-3631 and we'll try to answer all your questions over the phone. We'll help you understand the risk of losing assets, Chapter 7 qualifications, pros and cons, and even alternative options so you can make the most informed decision. Thank you so much for watching our video, and I surely hope this will help you get out of debt cheaper, easier, and faster. Take care.